This is KPPQ LP Ventura, 104.1 FM, and we're in the Women's Room, where we appreciate and support each other. I'm your host, Kathleen Good. My guest today is a very creative woman, Maryann Ridini Spencer. From time to time, I like to feature women who live creative lives and whose work enriches our lives. Hi, Maryann.
Hi.
So delighted to have you here to talk about your creative projects and especially about your writing process. And I'm very interested in how you integrated Hawaii into writing your recent novel. I was so impressed when I heard Maryann worked at one time for CNN in Los Angeles, and even more impressed when I saw her cooking series, Simply Delicious Living, aired here at Caps Media on Channel 6. But perhaps, Maryann, you could relate a little of your impressive resume, which certainly confirms your creativity.
Thank you very much. In school, while I was growing up, I did a lot of theater work. Not only did I perform, but I was a costume mistress and I worked in props and sets.
Wow.
Yes, and I did equity and non-equity theater throughout the summers until I was in college. And after I graduated college, I immediately went to Los Angeles and worked as a writer-producer for CNN. It was a great experience. We taped a show live every night. And during the day, we were out filming and talking to all different people in the entertainment business.
Well, what show was it?
It was called Lee Leonard People Now.
Oh.
And then it was hosted by Bill Tush and then Mike Douglas.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow.
It was great. I worked on that for a few years. And then while I was working at CNN, I began to do a lot of freelance writing for different magazines. Los Angeles Magazine, California Magazine, some women's magazines, because I always loved to write, and I worked at the school paper in school when I was in college and also in growing up in elementary school, junior high. And writing was always important to me. And oddly enough, I always wanted to write a novel, but I didn't get to it till later in life. However, I went on from CNN. I became a PR production marketing executive, and then I still continued production work. And in 1990, I opened my own company after I had worked with the studios. I was a vice president of Stephen J. Cannell Productions and some other companies. Went out on my own. I figured I've got to do my writing. I've got to do the producing, creating my own projects. But PR and marketing was the other arm of my business, and that actually put food on the table until I could sell a project.
Always good to have that. Well, since I found out that you are an author, I asked you on the show, since our role here is educational, to talk about your creative writing process. Perhaps we could just start with some nuts and bolts about how you write.
Sure.
Now, do you immerse yourself in your writing? I mean, like living it all most of the time, or do you write only when the inspiration strikes?
Well, you know, when I worked at CNN, I was given a task. I had to cover a certain assignment or an event. And so I would have to get all the information about that and kind of put it into a way that it would translate into a story that could be told on TV. And so that was a different kind of a writing. When I did interviews for print and magazines, I'd actually sit down with the interview subjects, talk to them, and then I would let all the information kind of ruminate in my head. And when I felt I was ready, I had a starting point. I would sit down at my desk or typewriter at the time, because that was before computers, you know, and kind of formulate it. And I'd go back and forth and play around with it. But what I found, the more you write, the more it comes to you, and you can focus your mind and you can focus whatever you need to a lot better when you're continually doing something.
Right.
So even if you're writing in your journal every day, that will help you organize your thoughts, because writing is all about creativity, getting the inspiration, but you also have to be organized.
Right.
Because no one likes to go back and edit 5 million times. So that was, you know, there's different ways to write different things. And I think with a novel, I had an idea first that came to me. and I wanted to write a book about a soul who would help someone on the earth plane. And I don't know why I had that idea. It just came to me. And then I started thinking, okay, so where could I place this and what's the story going to be? And it changed shape many times. In that case, I took out a yellow line notepad and I started writing down sequences of things that I wanted to happen. And then I actually bulleted out the whole book before I sat down to it.
You bulleted out the whole plot?
I did. Because
plot points?
I'll tell you why. I don't like to start writing unless I know where I'm going. It makes things flow, believe it or not, because when you bullet out something, it's only a few words.
Right.
So you kind of know. And if you're writing a mystery or anything that has, there's things that happen, you want to place them in certain places where they get revealed. You have to know what's going to happen in order to reveal them in an interesting way.
Right.
So I think that process takes the most time. For me, it does. And then when I actually sit down to write, it flows. And things happen while you're writing where you may get an idea here, or idea there, and you can fit it in somewhere. But I do follow my blueprints.
And probably go back to them from time to time.
Yes.
Yeah. As a former teacher of creativity workshops, that's me, I found the most common obstruction to creativity was simply getting started.
Getting started is big.
Yeah.
And for me, getting started means knowing where I'm going.
So that's how you start.
That's how I start when I actually write something, when I sit down to actually write. Otherwise, it's more playing.
Right.
You're dreaming. You could get an idea in the shower. You could get an idea when you're driving your car, listening to music. Sometimes for Hawaii, this book takes place, most of it in Hawaii. I put Hawaiian music on while I was writing.
Well, that's wonderful.
Slacky guitar music, and I lit a candle, and I felt like it was wonderful. I said, no one bother me, shut the door. And I was in my own little world.
Did you actually write while you were in Hawaii?
Yes, I did. I wrote on the Big Island. I wrote in Kauai and on Maui.
Oh,
so all over.
All of it. So, which of your previous work experiences, I know you've kind of outlined many of them, was the most useful for getting started on writing novels? Or what was there?
Well, I'll tell you, I think writing for print and magazines, you're organizing your ideas with interviews that have to be a compelling story in a certain amount of words. I think that's very important. But I realized later, and while I was writing my novel, that I wrote short stories when I was a child that I forgot about.
Oh, wow.
When I was 13 and 14, they were school assignments, but they were little novellas.
Much like the heroine, Kate, in your novel.
Well, I took that. Actually, while I was writing the book, I was given a box of things that my parents had kept, just like the story in the book. And I'm saying, I'm going to put this in the book.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what happened. And I had realized, I said, wow, I forgot I wrote these things. And I started reading them. I thought, wow, I was pretty good. I was amazed at 12 years old. How could I do this? So I think that, I think you have to have a desire and a passion for it, because it's a lot of work. And you have to have a story to tell. And while it may only be a kernel of an idea first, you have to develop the story around that. It has to have different layers.
Right.
So that does take time.
Oh.
Alfred Hitchcock used to storyboard his movies out.
Oh, right.
So he knew exactly what was going to happen. And that not only made for fabulous movies, it also helped his budget. And everything. So, and I think when you're writing, you also have to know, that's why I bullet out almost each scene. Like Alfred Hitchcock did a movie, each scene in a movie, I just do each scene in a book. I call it a scene. Because I'm also a screenwriter. I can't get away from it.
Right. So you kind of use that, the techniques you developed
absolutely.
there. Yeah.
And, I think probably when it comes right down to it, probably more of the techniques I use adapting novels to screenplays and writing screenplays, because I've written a lot of screenplays before I sat down to write this novel.
Right. So your book, Lady in the Window, is set in New York and mostly in Hawaii, in Kauai to be exact. Now, how did you pick Kauai as your setting, and is Kauai a very personal experience for you?
Sure. Well, I first wanted to set it in Long Island, New York, in a little town called Cutchogue. When I had the idea come to me for the book, that's such a picturesque, beautiful little town.
Yeah, I've been there.
And I started writing a plot outline, and then it changed. And I thought, I'm going to set it in World War II in France during the Alsace-Lorraine country. And I started writing that, and I had a few chapters, and I liked them. But it really wasn't the book, and I put it down. Then when my family and I took a vacation in Kauai, I had been to all the other islands many times, but it was my first time to Kauai, and we stayed in Princeville, and we took that little bridge over to Honolulu. And as soon as I was in Kauai, I just said, I think this has to be the place where it happens, because I wanted a little town feel. And there's also something quite mystical. And I could feel the mana, which is the Hawaiian word for spirit, that encompasses a person's places and things. It was just amazing to me. And I think because I felt like I was back in time. There weren't a lot of big structures. There was a lot of wide open spaces, the beautiful Pacific. And I felt like I was almost in another time. And
like when?
Like probably thousands of years ago.
Oh wow.
And I felt this has to be where it is, because Kate, the lead character, goes through a journey inside herself, and she discovers things about herself and the world around her, and also in spiritual form as well. So I felt it was a great setting.
Well, I saw Kauai as almost like one of the characters in the book. So
it was, I think.
You intended that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Does Kauai have a meaning in the native language?
I'm not sure of the meaning. I'm sure it has I'm sure the word means something. I just don't know what.
Oh, that's all right. Now, you mentioned the ancient Hawaiian concept of mana, the sort of creative energy or spirit. You also, in the book, uses themes ohana and aloha. Could you explain these concepts?
Sure. Well, mana is a supernatural force, and it's believed to dwell in a person or a sacred object and around you. And when you connect with others and live the way of aloha, which is with spirit, with care and concern and watching over people and the universe.
Is that sort of like a conscious, consciousness?
Yes. And that creates a powerful mana.
Ah.
And it uplifts all mankind when you do that. But aloha is used to say hello, to say goodbye, but it also means a lot more than that. It's a way of living. And when they say living the way of aloha or in the spirit of aloha, it's living with just love for humankind, caring, concern, a do unto others kind of philosophy where you recognize the God in every person and you treat them with respect and love and kindness. And you treat Mother Earth that way too, because we all have to live with Mother Earth. We can't disrespect her.
And I think that's a really important message right now when we're on the brink, and we're not going to get much help from our central administration.
You have to be kind. You have to be kind to people and respect people. And even if they're different than you, you still have to honor that part of them, because we're all connected. We are all connected. And that's why I loved Hawaii for the setting. But also I do believe that they live on this plane and then another plane where they live here on Earth, but they also believe their loved ones surround them always and help guide them. And I believe that myself. And I just thought this is a great place for this book.
Yeah, it all integrates beautifully. Now, I also noticed you used quite a bit of food description and cooking activity in the book.
I wonder why.
Yeah, cooking is usually thought of as women's daily work. Would you comment on how you have used cooking creatively?
Yes. My daily work is writing and being at the computer or out on location, doing things like that. I find cooking to be so relaxing
Oh.
because I get to do it on the weekend or the end of the day.
Uh-huh.
And I love to cook with fresh and natural ingredients. And it's something that I do. And I find a lot of joy creating a meal, not simple, within 30 minutes or so, but making it taste great to enjoy it.
Uh-huh.
And I love inviting family and friends over on the weekends so we can sit and talk and have a great conversation over a yummy meal.
Uh-huh.
It's something that I was brought up with.
Oh.
My mom, my grandma used to watch them, and we would have family gatherings every weekend. And then we would have parties. I loved it. And I was always mom's helper in the kitchen.
Uh-huh.
And growing up, I loved creating my own recipes. One of my most fun activities, because I was the oldest of 6 children,
Oh.
my parents would be sleeping late on Saturday morning or sleeping in. I would always get up really early, and I would set the table and start making breakfast. And it would be such a great pleasure to me to have to do that and then come down and have everyone eat it.
Oh. So
I loved it.
So the spirit of Ohana really has always been in you.
Right. And Ohana means family. I don't know if I said that
Oh,
earlier.
right. Yes.
But it's family. It's
Uh-huh.
family, your blood relatives, and also your people you work with, your friends. It's all Ohana.
Ah. So were any of the recipes used in the book your own?
When I was describing certain things, some of them I already had recipes for, others I didn't, but now I do. So yes.
So did you have to actually do the cooking so that you really
I knew what they would
understood it?
taste like.
Oh.
And some of them, as I said, I did know already what they would taste like. And
Right.
others, I know so much what ingredients go with what and how
Uh-huh.
things taste that I was
Uh-huh.
able to just write that and have fun doing it.
Right. Just such a wonderful integration of all your experiences.
Well, you know what?
love
I
it.
did that, though, because I also felt that Kate, because of what she was going through and healing certain things in her life,
Uh-huh.
how do you heal? You have to rest, regroup,
Uh-huh.
think, pray, meditate, whatever. But you also, you have to turn to other people, and they enrich you and you enrich them. And how do you do that? By communicating, spending time together. And and for me, a meal and celebrating with family and friends over a meal. And I wanted her to do that because I think it brings so much. And when she does that, things come out of it that help her life.
Oh.
So I specifically wanted to include that.
Uh-huh. So I've been to Hawaii a number of times, but never Kauai.
Mm-hmm.
Your description has made me want to go there.
Good, I'm glad. That's what my editor said, and I go, okay.
Oh, you knew you were
I
successful.
know something happened, right?
Well, would you treat our listener to a little word imagery of Kauai? Like take us on a little mental tour, visual tour?
Oh, my goodness. Well, one of the things that comes to mind, and I do put this in the book, is when I visited the botanical gardens with my family. And it was a cloudy day, and I thought, oh my goodness, it's going to rain. And I was very upset because I wanted to take pictures of all these beautiful flowers in the garden. And when we got there, it started to rain, and we ran for shelter underneath the reception area. And there was this lovely lady, and she said, don't worry. We're going to take you out anyway because the rain will stop in a few minutes. It'll keep stopping and starting. We'll just ride, head for cover.
Could we just leave that story
Sure.
there? You're heading for cover because I'm going to have to take a little station break here.
Absolutely.
This is KPPQ LP Ventura, 104.1 FM, and we're in the Women's Room where we appreciate and support each other. I'm your host, Kathleen Good. My guest today is a very creative woman, Maryann Ridini Spencer. From time to time, I like to feature women who live creative lives and whose work enriches our lives. I am talking to Maryann about the creative process she used to write her novels. And we're back. Okay, so we left you and the family running for shelter in the rain.
Absolutely. We were running like crazy for shelter, and I was very disappointed. I thought, oh my goodness, it's going to rain. I'm not going to get all my pictures of these beautiful flowers. But we waited till the rain subsided, and then we walked out, and oh my gosh, the air, it smelled like perfume.
Oh.
Plumeria,
Uh-huh.
pikake, which is a beautiful little white flower.
Uh-huh.
And there were just all kinds of huge multicolored ginger plants, burnt orange, red, yellow, mixed with green. And then we had some beautiful cascading trees with all kinds of beautiful blooms of yellow and pink and purple. Oh my gosh. There was so much to look at, and all the different shades and sizes of the different palm trees. And I captured some wonderful photos with little raindrops on the petals. Like I call one of them Pink Lady, because it was just a beautiful pink flower popping out of this green, and it has a little teardrop on one of the leaves, and I just thought, oh my God, it's just gorgeous.
And you photographed that?
I photographed it. And they had other beautiful things too, like stairways that led to other beautiful gardens and different terraces, and it was that was just one of, and I do write about that in my book, that trip to the botanical gardens.
Well, I just feel very relaxed listening to it. It's like looking at a Monet painting.
It was, and I took some really great pictures there.
Oh, wow. So, are you familiar with the ancient Polynesian myths? And I was just wondering how you did research for the book.
Well, I think my research came when I went there and decided that I wanted to keep the book and have the book be placed there. Now, I had visited Hawaii with my family. We have actually a place on the Big Island, and I'd been there many times. So I knew about the landscape and about some of the flora and a little bit about how the people presented themselves. And I really just took from my different experiences on the different islands and in Kauai. And in that particular trip in 2014, to Kauai, there were places we visited that were just, they struck me beautiful. The botanical gardens, Gaylord's in one of the big plantations down there. That was a restaurant, but it had beautiful surroundings. Going into Hanalei, the Hanalei Pier. Now, there's a little bit in the book where Kate walks down this road, and as she turns and looks to the left, and she sees the expansive Hanalei Bay with that incredible pier that juts out like a couple hundred feet out into the ocean, and the mist is hanging right on the mountains, and it's just so beautiful. And there's a little canoe that's like off to the side, and that was my experience. When I did not expect to see that. I didn't know what was down the road. My husband and son were off doing some surfing, and I went window shopping, and then I took a little walk down that road and turned the corner, and then I saw that bay, and I thought, oh my God. I have never seen anything so exquisite.
Oh my gosh.
The lighting coming onto the mountains, onto the beach and the water. It was unbelievable. It was, I had to I did take pictures of it because I had to remember this. But it was just so wonderful. It was such a wonderful experience, so awe-inspiring that I knew that was one of the things I had to put in the book, that feeling.
Right. So that's how you get at your wonderful description, by using your own feeling.
Yes. I think all writers draw from their life in certain ways.
Right.
Although the story they write may not be totally their story, or they may have parts of their story in there, or people that have influenced them maybe in their story.
Right.
But I think you have to feel when you write. You have to. And I worked in the theater. I've worked in different areas of the entertainment business, and you do have to feel each character, what they're going through, in order for the words to come out the right way. In order to describe what you're seeing, you have to be there. Now, I do a lot of writing for screenplays, and you don't have a lot of action in the actual script, but you do have the words. You do have the actors saying the words. And for me, when I write, whether it be a screenplay, whether it be a novel, I'm in it. I'm seeing it.
You're there experiencing it.
Experiencing it. And if I'm not, I know something's off. So better do it another day or go back to the drawing board.
Right. That was one of the questions I was going to ask you about. What happens when you feel blocked and you don't know, where to go, or you feel like what you've written is not the truth? What do you do?
I do think again, I go back to that outline. If you outline and you are really comfortable with that outline, and that's going to go back, you're going to edit that. You're going to go back and forth. But if you feel comfortable, you take a little scene at a time. It's overwhelming to think of writing a book when you sit down.
Right.
So you just say, okay, I'm going to write for 2 hours today. Whatever comes out, comes out.
Oh.
So that relaxes you because you don't have to produce a whole book today.
Right.
You're just doing 2 hours.
Right.
And so you can put your music on, put your candle, whatever it takes you to you feel the mood, and then you just go into it. You already know a little bit about that scene you're writing today because you've bulleted it out. And now you wait and see what happens.
Oh, so sometimes you wait. You just do something else? Or?
No, I think it just happens. For me, it does. I mean, the characters' stuff comes out of their mouth. And I'm like, okay.
It sort of writes itself in a way because you've been there and been working with it for so long.
And you know what's going to happen in that scene. So while you know what's going to happen, other things may come out of it that you might not expect, but it's not going to take you off the main course. So
what you do is go back to your original bulleted sort of outline,
right?
And the answer kind of is
absolutely,
there.
And then you relax with that. And for me, knowing that I'm not going to have to turn out a book when I sit down, and I only need to concentrate on that today, and then I can move on. I give myself a time frame because I have other things to do during the day. So I usually write early in the morning. That's when I'm best. And that's before all my other work starts. So whatever it is for a person, I could start. Most of the time I'll start at 7. But I might start a little earlier or a little later. But I don't write when I feel like it has to be pulled out of me.
Oh.
No, that's not good.
That's a cue not to do it.
Yeah.
So you're very in touch with yourself.
Yeah. I think you have to be. And I know what stresses me out. If there's a lot of craziness going on or I have a lot of deadlines, you have to tune it out because you don't want to be thinking of anything else but what you're writing. It's almost, in a way, it's almost like a meditation. You tune out other things. Whatever that is for you. It might be sitting by a bubbling brook, or it might be, some people have to write in an office.
Right.
I write in my home office, and I usually write when people are sleeping.
Oh.
Because then I know I won't get interrupted.
Right.
And I also do not go to my computer and open my emails.
Oh.
Because if that happens, forget it. I'm going to be taking care of business, and it just messes it up.
Right.
So that's why I like to do it in the morning when I'm clear, when there's not a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, well, that's really good. It sounds like you've been able to, as many people who would like to do something creative, you've been able to break it down into small amounts because it's the overwhelming, like that huge blank page that the art teacher gives you and you're supposed to fill it out.
It is overwhelming. Yeah. And I think I did not write a novel until now because I realized that it doesn't have to be overwhelming. All of a sudden, a couple of years ago, I thought, wait a second, this is ridiculous. I write scripts, I do this, I can write a novel, and I need to, I want to, there's something I want to say. So I actually broke it down where I put myself on the schedule.
Okay, well, we just barely got into that, Maryann, but we're almost out of time. So I'm going to have to close here, but I'm hoping that you could come back and we could continue this very creative and interesting discussion.
Absolutely, I'd love to.
Okay. This is KPPQ LP Ventura, 104.1 FM, and we're in the Women's Room, where we appreciate and support each other. I'm your host, Kathleen Good. My guest today has been a very creative woman and the first of my Creative Woman series, Maryann Ridini Spencer. She has been a screenwriter, producer, journalist, TV talk host, as well as producer and writer for CNN. also the writer of an award-winning TV program for Hallmark Hall of Fame. As a freelance writer and now author of novels, she has been giving our listener insights into the creative writing process using her life experiences. And don't forget, In the Women's Room airs on Tuesday from 2 to 2:30 and Wednesday morning 8 to 8:30 a.m. For more information or more information from Maryann Ridini Spencer, please contact me at radio.capsmedia.org, and you can type In the Women's Room in the subject line.